KTLK, AM 1150, it is your voice. I'm David Cruz. Can you hear the ticking clock? It's more of a ticking time bomb. We are headed towards a fiscal derailment. And it seems like there are people hell-bent on making this happen. And I'm talking about Mr. John Boehner. And I'm talking about his cohorts, people who are standing by, letting this occur. The president has said he will reach across, he will strive for some kind of a compromise, and it's no deal, no way. And yet, listen to what John Boehner said today as he tried to shift the blame. First of all, let me quote one of his classics. I think he had to stay up at night to write this speech. He says, it's about time the Senate, quote, gets off their ass. Oh, that's right. The Senate is controlled by the Democrats, right? Oh, but he wouldn't be talking about the House, controlled by the Republicans. And as much as I hate tags, baby, on this one here tonight, we have to get real with the story. Professor Peter Mathews is here. He's a political analyst who teaches at Cypress College. You've also taught at California State University, Fullerton, and I've seen you on so many different network TV shows. Thank you, Professor, for being here.
It's always good to be here, Dave.
Listen to John Boehner trying to blame it on the White House.
But I don't think the president's focused on trying to find a solution to the sequester. Now, the American people know the president gets more money, they're just going to spend it. And the fact is that he's gotten his tax hikes. It's time to focus on the real problem here in Washington, and that is spending. We have moved a bill in the House twice. We should not have to move a third bill before the Senate gets off their ass and begins to do something.
There you go. Well, while he says the president's moving around, I was just picturing John Boehner holed up in his smoke-filled office, trying to conspire with his people, trying to see what else they can do to hurt progress in America. So I've invited a guy who's going to help bring my blood pressure down, Professor Peter Mathews, political science at Cypress College, a good colleague of mine from television days, and now here we're happy to have you as a regular contributor, as an analyst. Explain to me. You come from a family of educators, your father a university professor, your mother a clinical psychologist. I think Boehner needs both. He needs a professor and a shrink. Tell me, what is going on with these people? They know the time is ticking away, and still we keep hearing rhetoric and not action.
Yeah, you're right. First of all, my mom was a special ed teacher, but here's what's going on.
He needs special ed as well.
That's right. He certainly does. David, I predicted this will happen. They're going to go off the so-called cliff, or the sequester is going to happen on Friday. And here's the reason, because these Republicans led by Boehner don't understand that we have to invest in this country. They're saying we can cut, and then save everything that way. But if you cut money from education, from Head Start programs, from work study programs, from the Small Business Administration, you're not going to be creating any more jobs. And President Obama has a great plan, really, which I support. I think he's suggesting that we put taxes on these offshore oil accounts where the profits are being kept offshore. There's no taxes, the tax havens.
Tax the hell out of them.
Close those loopholes.
In fact, give them to me. I'll put them to work.
You'll put them to work. And the oil companies, they got a $4.6 billion tax loophole that they've been getting every year while making hundreds of billions in profits. Let's not subsidize the oil companies. Let's help the kids have Head Start and the small businessmen create jobs. That's what's got to happen, Dave. And I tell you, it's a matter of common sense. And these Republicans won't budge, most of them, because they're in safe districts.
Professor Mathews, I heard this morning that, we're just making stuff up. And after all these cuts are not going to kick in one night. They'll be gradual. So it's like bleeding by 1,000 cuts. $12.4 million in grants to prevent and treat substance use disorders, $2.6 million in funds to help improve the state's response to public health threats like the one we have right now on Skid Row here in L.A., on and on and on and on.
Yes.
Tell me, if this derailment happens, what do you see? I say if, when? What do you see for California in the near term? And will the governor or will any of us be able to do anything to mitigate some of these damaging effects?
Here are the specific results in California. There are $87 billion cut from teachers and schools primary and secondary education. 1,200 teachers will lose their jobs, and teachers' aides lose their jobs. 187,000 fewer students will be served. You go on the work-study programs cut for college students. They can't earn their way through college. I mentioned Head Start earlier. There's a lot of other stuff. Protection of clean air and clean water. California will lose about $12.4 million environmental funding to ensure that we have clean air and clean water, as well as prevent pollution.
Oh, those numbers are making me dizzy. They're making me dizzy.
The military is going to lose a whole bunch. Army base operation funding will be cut by $54 million. I can go on with the numbers, but the main thing is you're going to have cuts in military readiness, law enforcement.
Let me see if I get this. You're telling me that across the board, every corner of our community is going to feel it.
Absolutely.
Cops, military, education, health care.
Child care, public health, violence against women, nutrition program, Meal on Wheels for seniors.
This ought to be enough for us to throw all those rat bastards out of Congress. Just throw them out.
I agree.
Throw them out. Throw them out. Throw them out.
Because they're not.
Throw them. I'm not done. Throw them out. Throw them out. How soon can we get John Boehner and his people out of there? Throw them out.
2014, the next election that's coming up, and these are not real Republicans. These are not the moderate Republicans of the
I need you to run for Congress, Professor. I need you in D.C.
Let's get the truth out there first, and let's see what we can do about that.
The thing is, we've been getting this information out, and I don't think America has awakened. I don't think my listeners, I don't think you the listener, I don't think you have yet realized the damning effects this is going to have. I'm going to tell you something. In addition to everything that the good professor has just mentioned, you know one of my pet peeves, Mondo. You know one of my pet peeves. It's about to hit again. This sequester is going to drive gasoline prices, boom, through the roof. They'll find some connection. They will say, well, my cousin who used to come to work every day who can't because the road he used to take and then the paving that used to be done with asphalt that we got via some petroleum. And they'll just go on and on and on. Professor, we're going to see us get hit in the pocketbook across the board. We're going to pay a twofer twice. Go ahead.
We are. FBI and law enforcement, 1,000 less FBI federal agents. They'll be losing that's the equivalent of the cuts for them. Custom and Border Patrol. Cuts to mental health. We've got these problems with guns right now. Mental health people going crazy, shooting people up. They're going to cut 373,000 serious mentally ill adults will be cut out of
let me tell you on that.
Emotionally disturbed children, but go on and on.
On that point that you just talked about, on mental health.
Yes.
Father Gregory Boyle here, Homeboy Industries in East LA, has always told me nothing stops a bullet like a job. Mm-hmm. I submit to you that a lot of these things we're seeing with gun violence connects to people who are just not able to. In many cases, sir, they are frustrated, they are angry, they are raging out at a system that's broken.
Absolutely.
They're not getting the care, but that aside, they're facing, and I know many a family that's now breaking apart because of economic pressures. I mean, I know men and women who are now seldom seeing each other because they're just trying to put bread on the table.
Yes, it's a struggle. And that kind of stress.
You're losing kids in your classes,
Absolutely.
Professor.
We certainly are. And those kids are being put back from graduating and getting jobs. So this is a very critical
I got
situation.
to ratchet back my octave here because I'm totally all over the place. But I want you to know something. This is not about how good it sounds. It's about how real it is.
Absolutely.
And you need to hear the truth. You need to hear the truth. This is not going to be a walk in the park. If you have not yet awakened to the reality, you're about to get hit with an economic tsunami that is going to be felt in food prices. It'll be felt in fuel prices. It'll be felt in the curtailment of important services. Rome is burning, and the Neros in D.C. are playing the harp. I think he played the harp. Could have been a tuba for all I know. I don't know what these guys are doing up there in D.C., but I think it's almost as if they're wishing for this thing to come crashing down so that they can. They haven't done their job. They haven't done their job. They're not doing their jobs. And they work for you, and they work for me.
Let's raise the revenue by closing the loopholes, and let's also cut back on some of the waste. But the Republicans are saying, no, it's all about cuts.
I keep interrupting because you get me so riled up as you recite the impact of this, and yet I don't think we yet fully comprehend what's about to hit us. Is there anything that you could compare this to because of the magnitude and the breadth the width, if you will, that this thing, it's like a mile-wide tornado.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there thinking, oh, it's going to dodge me. I know for sure it's not going to hit me, and here it comes.
There's nothing like it recently, and even the 2008 and 2009 recession, when the Wall Street crash, at least they had something to save them with the stimulus. This is a direct cut, and it's going to take out so much out of the economy in terms of development stimulus and keeping jobs going. And not only think about meat inspectors. You're not going to be able to buy beef or steaks at the grocery store; it'll be delayed. There's some real direct implications of people that are going to be affected here, and that's the problem. And people start waking up in about a month or two because some of the cuts are delayed, the results of it, by 1 month. They can't be implemented right away. But a month from now, April 4th, and from then on, you're going to see a rapid deterioration through September because only got 7 months to make all these $85 billion in cuts.
Let me just say, a few days ago, I was hearing the story of what's happened in the UK, and they don't have meat inspectors on the scale that we do. I think they were shipping horse out
meat
as beef. They were shipping horse meat out as beef, and people thought, love this new fillet mignon. Oh, it tastes great, doesn't it, honey? Oh, sure, got that at a good rate. Let me tell you something. You may think stuff like this is just my invention of my hallucinatory mind. No! It is what happens when companies are left to their own devices. Mm-hmm. And I think it's what happens. There should be like a check system here where when Congress is out of control, we take it back. I know it sounds foolish, but no. When Congress is out of control, when they've played and messed it up enough, it's like kids. If they can't play together in the playground, you separate them. They all go home and do what my daddy told me and my three brothers to do. We'd rake the yard. We didn't have any grass left. That's how bad we were. So, Professor, the sequester hits. Now we're in this crisis. And either party is positioning. Bob. Okay, recovery. 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. How long will it take? Because as we start to see this thing spiral, people are going to lose their jobs. That drives the economy in the opposite direction. Yeah. So how long before you see any break, even if they decide to do something once this thing kicks in?
When this thing kicks in, it's going to cause a 25% reduction in the growth of the economy. That's already been figured out.
Wow, 25%.
We're going to grow at 1.6% rather than 2%. And that's a 25% reduction. And it's going to take months, if not years, to get back on track again.
And that growth that you've just mentioned is anemic anyway.
It's anemic anyway, absolutely.
So where we're trying to gather some traction here and move in the right direction, you're saying we lose 25%.
That's right.
At minimum. And if we start to level off, how soon before this thing can be turned around?
It depends if Congress will let us have some spending not to stimulate, but to get the economy going by hiring people, by giving money to small businesses, and by giving money back to the students so they can go to school. All that stuff will have a demand effect on the economy. And our economy is not just about supply side, it's about demand side. Without the demand on the part of the people, the consumers, it's not going to work. It could take up to a couple of years, Dave, unless we get moving fast on this.
If people are scared, Professor, they're not going to spend.
That's correct.
People are guarding their Chucky bucks, I call them. Because when I don't have enough money in my pocket, I go down to Chuck E. Cheese. I pick up a few Chucky bucks there. And let me tell you, I feel like a rich man. Riley and I spend a Saturday there, and we have a grand old time. But you can't do that with the nation's economy. No. You can't just frivolously think Chucky bucks are going to pull you out of this tailspin. So you see a lingering effect that will go way beyond 2013 into 2014.
In fact, we might have a double-dip recession because the last quarter of last year was a negative growth quarter. The first time we had negative growth.
Slow.
If you have 2 quarters of negative growth, including this one, you're going to have that's the definition of a recession. A double-dip recession.
You know, the only ones who made money, and we're going to talk about some of that coming up in a few minutes, banks made a lot of money in the fourth quarter. Oh, my gosh. They just made money, Mandito, hand over fist like rock and paper, baby. Except in their game, the rock always beats the paper, and they win because they print the paper.
That's right.
And they use this ink that changes. Okay, so how would you, if you had the ability to advise the president tonight, and you see Boehner just call you out the way he has. I mean, basically, he's calling out the White House. Let's see. First of all, the president is asking us to consider very carefully what he's asking for. He reminds us, this is all I want. Repeat that.
There are too many Republicans in Congress right now who refuse to compromise even an inch when it comes to closing tax loopholes and special interest tax breaks. And that's what's holding things up right now. Keep in mind, nobody's asking them to raise income tax rates. All we're asking is to consider closing tax loopholes and deductions that the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, said he was willing to do just a few months ago. He said there were a bunch of loopholes and deductions you could close. Said you could raise $800 billion, $1 trillion by closing loopholes. Well, we're not even asking for that much. All we're asking is that they close loopholes for the well-off and the well-connected, for hedge fund managers or oil companies or corporate jet owners who are all doing very well and don't need these tax loopholes, so we can avoid laying off workers or kicking kids off Head Start or reducing financial aid for college students. I don't think that's too much to ask. I do not think that is partisan. The majority of the American people agree with me. The majority of Newport News agrees with me. We need to get this done.
And I agree with you, and that's all that matters in Southern California. Just the professor and me, Obama, we got your back, baby.
100%.
That's it.
It's a common sense plan that has worked before, and it could work again if these Republicans would get some common sense in their head.
You know what? I hope
act on it.
I hope we are staring at the beginning of the end for that mentality, that blockade mentality, the mentality of no business is good political business. You know, when I interviewed, and I said this yesterday, and it struck me again today, as I was reading all of these damaging reports that will be hitting us, Linda Sanchez, bless her heart, from I think the 38th district down around, between L.A. and Orange County, telling me there's a lot of tradition in Washington. Well, you know what? Bullcrap to that tradition. Change it. Get it out. It's musty air. Open the windows. Air that puppy out, because the stink in here is higher than when I peel my onions. And let me tell you, when I peel my onions, it is a sight and a smell to behold. But what Washington is doing, let's get real, it is a stench that I can't bear anymore. And I don't know about you, but if you're fed up with it, you got to get on the horn right now. You got to call Barbara Boxer. You got to call Dianne Feinstein. You got to call the White House. I'd even say call John Boehner himself. Oh, they'll dismiss your call because they'll say, we'll refer your call as a constituent to our fellow representatives and senators. That's their easy way out. They pass the buck. Just let them know. Jam the lines. Call their office. Do it. So it's after hours. Who cares? Interrupt their happy hour. Well, you know, Mr. Boehner may be out getting a tan tonight, but just go ahead and do it anyway. All right, we wrap it up. Professor Peter Mathews, let me ask you this. As this day approaches, what do you look for as the first telltale signs of the approaching sandstorm?
I would say you'll start seeing the first responders getting cut back, the firefighters. You're going to have layoffs in the police departments, and that's going to impact people directly right away. Even the meat inspection, you're going to have a delay in the delivery of meat into grocery stores. And when people start seeing that, they'll say, whoa, something is really going on here. Hey, what's going on? This hasn't happened before. And it's going to start happening right away.
So let me see if I get it. Yeah. Scarcity of first responders in some cases.
Yes.
Obvious reductions in supply of some products that require federal oversight.
Yes.
Certainly longer times to get appointments to see certain healthcare providers.
Yes.
More delays and waiting going on when you need to call Social Security, the IRS, or get your child in a school program. Funds being cut again to some of the universities in California. Research going on the shelf.
Yep.
Professor,
and also, parks are going to be
absolutely, parks as well.
You know, Yosemite and other parks.
This is not about gloom and doom. Do you think there's a lesson? If you were today addressing your political science students, and they're some of the brightest in America, and I know they are because they took your course. I'll send you the bill for that one.
All right, good one.
Here's what I want to know, Professor. What's the takeaway for no, seriously, what is the takeaway for this generation and the one that's coming about reclaiming the reins of our government, sir? This is not tolerable anymore. We can no longer... This may have worked in the past, but the stakes are too high. And I'm not just talking about the sequester. I'm talking about major decisions that are being screwed up each and every day by these these diehard old farts who are stuck in their ways of the past. We live in a new society, a new world. You've talked about it yourself. You talked about centers of excellence. You talk about being globally competitive. What would you tell your kids about reclaiming their government?
We discussed it this morning, actually, in our lectures and our discussion. And what came up was that we have got to get proactive, as so do the students themselves, and register the voters themselves, their friends, discuss it, go on Facebook, on Twitter, get the word out, and then create a voting block, Dave. Students across America and young people and their families need to create a voting block that would vote in the direction of cleaning house. It's time to clean house in Washington. That means especially the House of Representatives, which is the one holding everything up. So the students are ready to do that.
So my Crusaders, for you who ask me each and every day, we don't whine here, we win. Winning today in America means take back your city councils, take back your school boards, take back your county reins of government, take back the boards and agencies that spend your money. Take back Sacramento and take back Washington. You don't have to change the world. Just get involved one step at a time. Professor Peter Mathews, I know you and I will be in touch very closely. We're going to put a link on our website to yours. By the way, a kick-butt website you have, sir.
Thank you. I must thank my friend Brett Covey who put it up there.
Well, you know what? He does good work.
All right.
Thank you again.
Thank
Professor
you,
Peter Mathews, Cypress College, has been with us, giving us some insights and explaining what this means. If you want to get more information, you can always reach Professor Peter Mathews. Go to our website, KTLK, AM1150.com, the David Cruz Show page, and we will have it there for you.